Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to another video. It's been a while actually since we've done a live video, and we're back with a Q&A. There's lots to discuss about Watford at the moment. You know, we're in the playoff positions, but it's a bit of a weird time, I think, to be a Watford fan. We did that mid-season review, and we were kind of thinking, where could the season go? And after the weekend result, there's a lot to get into, and no other better people than Mr. Sam Ucko. Sam, how are you doing, mate? Before I introduce our next guest.
I'm all right. Yeah, I mean, just about got over the Millwall result, to be honest with you.
Wasn't good, was it, mate? Wasn't good.
Not good at all, and I'm sure we'll get into it a bit more. But it is a bit of a confusing time to be a Watford supporter because we've come off pretty much just a good run of form, I'd say. But with all the injuries, the suspensions now as well, it's a difficult few weeks coming up, I think.
Yeah, difficult. And to introduce our next guest, becoming a bit of a WD18 regular, actually, Mr. Charlie Zazzera. Charlie, how you getting on, buddy?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on again.
Mate, it's a pleasure. I feel like we need to get you on after a couple more wins, though, because I mean,
yeah,
I think the last few times has either been a win, but it's not been a great game, or we've lost.
You should have seen me after Huddersfield. I thought we played all right. I saw Sam in the away end. I had a few Christmas beers in me. I was loving life, and then
man, I love it.
Down to Earth for Boxing Day, but I'm sure we'll get into it all. I'm looking forward to the chat again.
Yeah, top man. Pleasure as always to have you on, mate. And yeah, as we said at the top of the show, today's going to be a bit of a Q&A. We haven't done one of these in a while, Sam, from when I can remember. We asked your questions on Twitter, YouTube. So if you are watching live, make sure you do leave them in the comment section. And also we're on Twitter live as well, so make sure you leave them in the Periscope chat, whatever it is. And we also got some questions through on Instagram as well. And if you haven't followed us already, at WD18 fans on social is the place to go. And obviously follow the guys. The links will be in the description below to follow their personal channels, do some great stuff. So you know what, Sam? I'm going to chuck it over to you about the Millwall game at the weekend before we just get into some questions. There was a bit of a, I don't want to say overreaction, but there was quite a lot of negativity, particularly on Twitter after that result. Do you think that was justified? Do you think that was fair, the reaction you saw?
I think definitely. I mean, I think we all knew it was going to be a difficult game against Millwall, particularly after sort of the reverse game. Got absolutely battered and lost 3-0. And I think sort of the game being at 12 o'clock, day after Christmas, people probably a bit hungover as well. The atmosphere at Vicarage Road didn't really get going, and neither did the players on the pitch. And I think you put a tweet out something like that, Jacob. I think we've seen some bad performances this season, but I don't think we've seen a bad performance from minute 1 to 90 like we did. We just never got going at all. Millwall bullied us all over the pitch, and I think for that, I think people, you know, rightly so, were fuming with the result, and not just the result, the performance. And the way that I like to put it, I'd say the run of form recently has papered over some cracks. I like to think of it like this, that João Pedro was that glue keeping the crack sort of together. Without João Pedro, those cracks are wide open again, and we're seeing this squad for, you know, what it ultimately is, which at times isn't good enough. And I think it's a difficult, as I said at the top of the show, I think it's a difficult few weeks coming up.
Charlie, are you in the same camp as Sam there on the result of the weekend?
I don't think it's far that way. I think the thing that I was devastated the most wasn't the performance, wasn't the result. It was the injury to João Pedro. And if it is that ligament damage, then it could be devastating for us this season and a real huge blow. I saw a tweet which I kind of liked. You think we got relegated yesterday? Looking at Twitter, we're fourth in the league with about 30 injuries. It isn't all bad. We can only get better. Which I kind of see two sides of it. I think the injuries, I think we've got 9 injuries now with João Pedro and Kamara suspended for 4 games. If you take any of those injuries out of Burnley or Sheffield United, they're going to struggle as well. So we've had a terrible run with injury. And yeah, it was a bad game, but we know what the Championship's like. If you win another one, you're happy again. So I just think we've got to look at big picture, not get too down about it, and just see what we could do against Swansea, who obviously I don't think they've won in 9 or something. So cue Watford.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm the same. I'm kind of a bit of both because, as you say, Sam, I put a tweet out saying that was probably the worst performance I've seen. And then I remembered the Millwall away game, and both of those were absolutely terrible. If we're going to go for like Millwall away for like worst performance of the season.
I'll say that. I'll just say about that. There were, before Millwall scored that first goal, there were some brief moments in that game where I remember Keenan Davis had a good chance. I know he had a good chance as well at 0-0 and probably should have had a penalty as well. But from minute 1 to 90, we were awful, I thought. And that's, the only time this season I can think of it was it being that bad, to be honest.
It was just a weird game to watch. You just could tell from minute 1 we weren't up for it. And I also felt the balance of the team. I mean, ultimately, this is, none of it's really Bilic's fault in the sense that should he change the system with the lack of central midfielders? I felt sorry for Deli Bashiru getting overrun. Bakuna, I thought, had a poor game. And then when you've got, I guess when you're playing the formation that we do, Charlie, if you have two central midfielders who maybe aren't dominating the game or aren't controlling the game, could we have expected anything different with the amount of injuries that we've got at the moment?
It's a tough ask. I mean, I was there for the whole game when Hamza Chowdhury got injured, and again, my reaction was, that's another big blow. I think Tom Deli Bashiru has been really good last three games, especially Huddersfield game, and I think he was one of the few against Millwall who can kind of come out of it. I think Bakuna didn't have his best game. I think he's a walking yellow card. So when you get a yellow card after 10 minutes, you're hamstrung. So it's going to be interesting what Bilic does. He's going to earn his money next couple of days because of that injury list. I thought Davis was another player who I saw him getting a bit of stick, which I was a bit confused about online. I think he tried a lot. Maybe he didn't release it as much as possible. I think he backs himself so much he thinks he can beat 4 people and strike it. And I think maybe Bilic should be interested in seeing. Do you guys think maybe a change of formation might be coming against Swansea?
Sam, I feel like he might have to, right? His hands a little bit forced with the midfield options.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a difficult one because it's not like we've got too many people to rely on sort of coming off the bench and waiting in reserves. There's not many youth players who the club seem to trust and rely on. We've seen Shafford go out on loan again today, which I was quite surprised about given the current situation. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he might be forced to change the formation. Maybe it's 2 up top where we see sort of Davis and Bayo go up top together, or I was going to say Manai, but Manai's injured as well, isn't it? It's a case of, I feel like it's a case of not who's available, it's a case of who's not injured. And from what you've got there, you sort of have to force together 11 players and create a team and try and make it cohesive.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Thanks so much, Jonathan, for the kind words. Great to be back. Greg says on Bakuna, we've brought Bakuna in off from the beach. What do we expect? Lou Orns, I'll throw this one over to you, Charlie. I still can't get my head around Truce not starting. We've got no progressive midfielders, so why wouldn't you start a centre-back that could play through the lines?
Yeah, my only caveat to that, before the Millwall game, we kept 4 consecutive clean sheets with Cathcart and Cabaselli. I think they've played decent in those games. Millwall, I don't think they had their best game. I think Cathcart could have been maybe a bit stronger for their first goal. Some people are saying it was a foul. But to be honest, if I was to play my starting 11, I would have Truce in, like Luke said, for that progressive passing to try and get through the thirds. And one thing that I think was really, really lacking is leadership within the team when it's not going our way, just someone to get people together. And I think that's one of Truce's biggest strengths. So on that alone, we need as many leaders on the pitch as possible, because at the moment, I think games like that Millwall game, when we haven't got anyone to get the lads together, to talk to some people, to speak to the ref, you see Millwall played as a blinder instead of especially McNamara getting Kamara sent off, and they were a lot more savvy than we were. So I would have Truce in my starting 11.
Yeah. I want to pick up on a point Charlie said there about leadership, and it's something that Jacob, I remember we spoke about it a few times last year in those games where there was that medical emergency against Chelsea, there was the floodlight problem against Norwich, and I remember seeing those two sides there. They get in with their manager and discuss it. Well, our players would just walk around sort of doing nothing. And when João Pedro went down injured, I remember seeing there was groups of, 3 or 4 Millwall players. They didn't get in as a whole team, but they were talking to each other at least, discussing what they can do better. Well, again, Watford players were just doing their own thing, doing nothing really. And, I think we're really missing that leader to sort of go, come on then, we got a few five minutes now while João gets treated. Let's talk about why this isn't going well. And this team lack leaders, I think, and that's one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, I have to say.
Just another point on that. When I spoke to Danny Webber last season about why Watford are having such a bad season, he highlighted straight away the lack of leadership in terms of someone like Troy Deeney. Now, I know some people on Twitter might kind of say he's past it, blah, blah, blah. But what Troy did was he was what Sam was kind of talking about earlier in terms of the glue of keeping this team and the players together in, which is a pretty crazy environment. It can be at times with the club, with the ingoings, outgoing, managerial change. And Troy was the one just keeping the calm. And I think since he's moved on, we're really struggling with that leadership and that one person. But we need several leaders to get promotion if that's the main aim.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's the thing with Cathcart, right? Although he's the captain at the moment, he's not really a shouter with Craig. He's more of a sort of it's more of his performances that he sets the example. I guess that's the same with Zhao as well. In a way, he's a leader as well because obviously he sets the standard so high that almost lifts everyone else's performances. But I don't think we have a leader who, I actually think the closest leader we have to that is probably Backman, to someone who's actually just willing to scream at people, to be honest. I know there's different types of leadership, but you don't feel there's an actual captain on the pitch at the moment. Look, we'll move on to some questions. We'll go straight over to, I think is there anything else, guys, to mention about the Millwall game in terms of, I mean, it was so bad.
Yeah, let's just get rid of it. Do you know what? I just think that we're going to see. I think ultimately with the Coventry game, I put it personally down to a bad day at the office because I didn't think we played too badly, to be honest with you. And obviously, Gyökeres is an unbelievable striker and he won them the game. I think with this one, it's all about the reaction now, going to Swansea, going to Norwich. Two difficult games. A manager under pressure at Swansea with Russell Martin. They're not having probably as good of a season as they hoped. Norwich will be hoping for that sort of new manager bounce with their caretaker manager. Two difficult games, and it's going to be about responding in those games, and hopefully we can sort of put Millwall at the back of our minds after that.
Peter says Truce is captain material, especially what he did against Luton. Yeah, I guess he is the most natural leader that we've got in the team at the moment, based on the fact he's obviously captain Nigeria as well. And Jai says Sarr needs to be our man again since Zhao's injured. It's time for him to step. I think a lot of people are saying. So look, we'll cross over to. We'll start with Twitter actually, just with some of the questions. Thank you so much to the people who sent them in. Actually, this kind of leads on nicely from the Millwall game. And Daisy on Twitter says, in light of recent results and performances like the 2-0 loss against Millwall, what do you think about the future of Bilic? Will he last the rest of the season? And if we could get a new manager, who would it be and why? That's an absolute bombshell to go straight in with. You know what? We'll save the last bit of that question because look, that's not the case. But what have you made of Bilic so far, Sam, in the sense that there was a bit of a rocky period when he came in. We then started to pick up results and we were churning out results. He hasn't been helped by injuries, but as a lot of people are saying, there has been a drop-off in performances. But how much can we level that at him? Because I'm struggling to do that at the minute. I kind of feel like what else could be happening? I guess the only thing you could say, right, is a change of formation, but...
Yeah, look, I think it's really difficult to put any blame on him when, first of all, he's dealing with, a difficult number of injury suspensions at the moment. And also, ultimately, he's working with a group of players who it hasn't worked for 5 or 6 managers now. So what makes us think, sort of Slaven Bilic can get a tune out of them? And I actually think he's doing a really good job so far. I know, obviously, we have had those blips. We've had poor runs of results, such as the Millwall game and the Blackpool game. But on the whole, I think, the big thing is he's tightened up the defence. I say that, prior to the Millwall game. I know it was a mess in that game. But before Millwall, it was, 4 or 5 clean sheets in a row. Speaking to a couple of players in the last few weeks, they seem to be a lot happier with Slaven Bilic in charge, and they all seem to really buy into his ideas and what he's doing. So I don't think any of this is really levelled at Slaven Bilic, and if there are questions, they have to be heading upstairs towards the Pozzos, towards Scott Duxbury. Obviously Ben Manga's come in and he's going to assess what's going on now and hopefully try and rectify a few things, but for me, it's none of this is on Slaven Bilic. It's
an interesting one with Ben Manga, Charlie, because there's so much excitement around him and Helen Acosta coming in with their track record, obviously coming from Frankfurt, who won the Europa League, and you see some of the players that they've brought through and they've scouted and recruited, and the careers they've gone on to have or having at the moment. The only thing that I'm a little bit worried about with it is, I guess, if they will be given the space and the platform to do their job properly. And the other thing is, when you look at Watford's recruitment right now, do you feel like we're recruiting for an identity or a style of play? Because I think at the moment we're not really looking to do that. It's more, can we unearth some gems and sell them on rather than create a team and a culture and identity. So with Manga coming in, how are you feeling? Are you on the side of excitement or are you a little bit cautious with it?
Yeah, I can definitely see your caution. I think it's got to be a positive step. I mean, of what I've heard, it's going to be a real coup, and a lot of top teams in the world could have been looking after Ben Manga, especially the job that he's done, and Helena Costa. So we've got to take it as a positive. I think what is the biggest test is kind of what our objectives are. And I think with the move to replace Rob Edwards with Slavan Bilic, the Pozzo's clear objective is automatic promotion. So the kind of recruitment those guys are doing, which is a bit more unearthing gems, maybe sell on big resale value. I'm not sure that's the kind of recruitment we need right now. If that's going to get us promoted to the Premier League, that might be more suited to a team more settled in a league, maybe Premier League, like Frankfurt were in the Bundesliga, and they've got some years to kind of get those talent, bed them in, and then develop them and get them going further. So it's going to be really, really interesting January transfer window. I'm looking towards kind of, I don't want to praise them too much, but what Bournemouth did last year, who I thought they were pretty average last year. They went on kind of similar to us, very inconsistent, but they went big in the January transfer window. They went for Kiefer Moore, Dembele, Todd Cantwell, Nat Phillips, Ethan Laird.
Jamal Lowe, was he in January?
Who's that?
Jamal Lowe. I think he was a January signing.
Maybe they got him earlier, but that's what.
Yeah.
That's what got them over the line. It was a game against Forest, and Kiefer Moore just scored the winner. So, if Gino is that, if the end goal is, the short-term goal is to be back in the Premier League, then he's got to make some moves in January.
Sam, I don't think we've kind of touched on Ben Manga and Helena Costa coming in because the hype is there, right? It's like it's one of the most. I mean, it's such a good acquisition that a lot of people are like, how have Watford managed to bring them to the club? I mean, obviously, the prospect of having an influence over a Premier League club potentially over the next couple of seasons and actually building their own sort of identity, which must be, that's the aim for a lot of, I guess, recruitment. People who are brought in to do recruitment. But Sam, how are you feeling about it? Because a lot, as I say, similar question to Charlie, a lot of people are kind of seeing both sides to this one.
Listen, I admit I'd never heard of Ben Manga before. I sort of heard these rumours of linking him to Watford. But look, I think it all depends on how much control he's given by the likes of Gino, the likes of, Gioretta and those around him. I think if we give him and Slaven Bilic sort of full control or as much control as possible, give them a budget to work with, let them pick who they want, I think, ultimately we could be flying here over the next couple of years. It might not be a sort of a short-term fix. It might be sort of in the summer or the transfer window after that. But I think we have to give him time. We have to give him control. And I like to think that it's an acceptance from Gino and Scott that perhaps they do need a bit of help now. And as long as they're giving him the ability to make those changes, I'm happy.
Sam, it leads on nicely, actually. I'm just going to throw this one back over to you. Wendover Horn on Twitter. I actually bumped into him. Funny story. I don't know if anyone makes this walk all the way home from Vicarage Road, but past the kind of Tesco's on the corner shop when you come out of Vicarage Road, I just picked up a meal deal, I think, after the game because I was trying to drown my sorrows. And I'm in the queue and I just see Wendover Hall walk past me and just look at me and go, what on earth did we just witness there? But he's put a question in going, is Gino more interested in signing players with the highest potential profit opportunity? He put brackets, did we need the Mateus Martins prior to João's injury? Then signing to the balance of the squad. So is Gino more interested in signing players with the highest potential profit opportunity than signing to balance the squad? What do you reckon, Sam?
Gino's a businessman, and I think ultimately, I think now we can say we need Mateus Martins, but prior to João's injury, we probably didn't need him. But it's definitely the first one that Wendover mentioned there, because if it was the other one, we would have seen centre back signed over the last few years, particularly after that FA Cup final. But ultimately, if you find a young gem of a centre-back in Europe or a young attacking midfielder or winger, who's going to sell for more? It's always going to be the attacker. So I think that's why Gino sort of is always looking at getting gems in rather than players to actually improve the team. And I think that's been one of the club's biggest flaws over the last couple of years.
Okay, next one. Moving on. Charlie, I'll throw this one over to you. Simple question. What are realistic aims for the rest of this season? That tough, simple question, but tough one.
Yeah, I think looking at it now, I did something. I did something with other fans for like Sky Bet on their YouTube channel with a Burnley and a Sheffield United fan and a Blackburn fan, and they asked for my prediction, and I went quite ballsy and said I think we'll sneak into the automatic promotion. But I think after the João Pedro entry now, I think we just need to make sure we secure a playoff place. I think Burnley, Sheffield United, looking at what they're doing, the word I always use in the Championship, just consistent. And they're just churning results out now. They've got the squad. They've had some injuries, but they've got through it. They're flying, and it would need to be a big collapse for anyone else to get an automatic position. For I think it's 11 points, is it? Yeah. And when you look at teams like Borough and West Brom, who were struggling at the beginning, they've changed their managers. They've picked up form. The table's ridiculously how tight it is. I mean, you lose 3 games, you could be. I think Swansea 16th now. They're in the playoffs recently. So we need to just try and just keep churning, getting wins and just secure that playoff position. I mean, look, if we did anything like we did in a couple of seasons ago, our form was crazy. I think we won 17 of 24 in January, something mad like that. So I can't see us doing that with this squad, and I think the quality of the Championship's improved. So just keep churning wins out, and let's just secure that playoff place, and hopefully we're in a good position when that comes.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, to be fair, Sam, I'd back Bilic in a playoff situation. I think it'd just be. I saw a couple of tweets saying expectations, have they changed? I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm looking at the squad now. I think that's the big thing in the Championship, isn't it? It's the squad we've got, and I don't think we've got the right mix to be in the automatic promotion. When I look at the last team that did it and Boothroyd's team as well, maybe that was through the playoffs, obviously, but you look at those teams and you think, do we have the ability to mix it as well as being able to play? And I don't know if we have that right balance at the minute. We're very much relying on individual quality, which we have probably the best player in the league and probably the best attack in the league when they're all firing. But it's that balance in the squad, Sam, that you just feel maybe is a little bit off at the moment. And do you know what? I saw a great tweet from, and I don't want to sort of like write off the season, not by any stretch, but I completely agree with you, Charlie. I got a great tweet from Vic Bate, who's a really good account to follow on Twitter. He's just like, it's just Watford. If you want to follow him, he's the man to follow. And he did mention about Watford not getting in a couple of battle-hardened Championship players that can stay fit for 40-odd games a season and do the dirty work. So your Watsons, Guardiolas, Hugheses, we're kind of missing that sort of player, aren't we, Sam?
We are, yeah. And I think, you say you back Bilic in a playoff situation. I definitely back Bilic. I wouldn't back these players. I don't think we've got the character. I don't think we've got the heart to ultimately, winning a playoff in what could be ultimately a scrap, say, against Preston on a Tuesday night. Their fans will be all up for it. I don't know. I'm just hypothetical here. I don't back us in that situation, to be honest with you. But I think you're right. I think part of that perhaps comes down to having those sort of Championship, experienced, your Ben Watson sort of player, your Guardiola sort of player. And I think that's ultimately what those players have, what those top 2 teams have. I know Burnley is sort of a very new team, but they have experience in there, like Jack Cork, for example. Ashley Barnes in there. Well, yes, you could argue that we've got obviously the likes of Gosling, Tom Cleverley, but can they stay fit for more than 5 games at once? Not really, no. And I know, particularly Gosling, I do feel sorry for Gosling there, but we do need probably someone who's in the peak of their career to come in and really make a statement for us.
Peter in the comment section, our squad has no depth, Jacob. We have nothing in reserve, strong enough to mount a serious challenge, but Orns TV does some great stuff on Do Not Scratch Your Eyes pod. Manga was pivotal in not only identifying, but actually getting Randall Kole Muani and Boré to go to Germany when we were in for both of them a couple of windows ago. Hopefully he could do the same for us. Absolutely. And that's the sort of players we want to be attracted to at football club. Moving on to the next question, back over to Lou Orns. Charlie, I'm throwing this one over to you, mate. Would you sell, loan, release Gaspar, Bayo and Manai to open up some funds, squad spaces for potential incomings? Luke put in brackets, damning indictment on our recruitment for the 2nd year running.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think Bayo can play a part. I think he's shown glimpses, Middlesbrough, Rotherham. It'd be interesting to see what he's like in a two with Davis. So I don't think. I think it depends if we go in for another striker. I don't really know the squad, how many numbers you get, how many spaces we can afford. But if Luke's saying that, maybe we're struggling with spaces in our squad. I think the problem with Manai, if you had to ask me, maybe sell Manai because of his injury record, and we can't afford to have more players who have got bad injury record. I mean, the few minutes he's played, I think Courtney Hall's looked good, but I'm just gutted for him because his injuries just show he's filling up a space. So that's another one. Who was the other one? Gaspar.
Gaspar, yeah. I have to say, when Gaspar, I don't want to single out players, but when he came on, I almost felt a little bit sorry for him in the sense that I don't think he looked fit. I don't know whether that's just because he's getting on a little bit, but I just thought he was getting into positions. I was like, there was a couple of times where he was just completely out of position, and he just didn't have the energy, I guess.
He was playing as a lone striker at points. He was making those runs through the middle. Saying, what on earth are you doing?
At the same time, Sam, that set up Bio's goal against Middlesbrough. So it can happen, but ultimately he's come on and it's a weird one, isn't it?
Anything I'd say with Gaspar, same with Ngakia, really, because a lot of people were caning Ngakia, and I thought he did all right against Huddersfield. But these guys have played a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there, maybe 2 games in a row. Sure. None of them have had 5 to 10 games. So it's so hard, especially in the Championship, and we haven't got a settled team as it is. So it's not as though you can just get players in and out. So I think it's really hard to judge players when they're just getting minutes here and there and not having a stretch of
very true. Very true. Do you know what? Let me just I'm just gonna, Sam, before I just wanted to get your thoughts on. Let me see if I can get this from the Rookery end. I'll throw the next question over to you, Sam. But from the Rookery end did this great graphic of the squad at the minute, and I'll just get the guys' thoughts on it. But Sam, just on, it was such a good question from Luke. I'll just throw that one over to you again. What would you do with? Yeah. Would you free up a few funds with Manai, Bio, Gaspar? What's your take on that one?
Yeah, I'd get rid of Courtney Hawes if we can, if it's in his contract. As you say, Charlie, I do feel sorry for him because I know he's had a difficult career in terms of injuries. But look, it's useless having a lone player in there using up a loan space if we're not going to use him throughout the season. I think he's just too injury prone. So if we can do that, I'd terminate his loan. I wouldn't get rid of Gaspar just because, ultimately we got him and Ngakia. Who else? Both of them are relatively injury prone as well, so we need sort of that support in there. Manai, Bayo, don't even know. Bayo, neither of them should be at Watford in the first place. So it depends on who the replacements are ultimately. But yeah, certainly we need to free up some squad places. Yeah,
sure. Right. Okay. Moving on to the next one. For some reason I can't seem to get this graphic up, but let's have a little look through your comments. There was one comment that was interesting up here. I hope that answered your question, Lou, by the way. Barlaser and Manning out of contract in the summer. 2 players right there we could do with a minimal fee. That's been backed in the comments quite a bit. It's interesting with Courtney Hawes. I saw a tweet from Andrew French who said there were who's hinted, and he'd been told about it, but he didn't want to. He'd been told in confidence, but there'd be mitigating factors why Hawes hasn't been playing at the moment, which is an interesting one. And one, I don't know if you can. It's weird because we don't know, but whether you can label it a recruitment or whatever. But when he got brought in, I have to say I was really happy with that signing because he was, he's coming from a Premier League club. He was the type of player you need in a Championship pushing squad. Robbie, our former promotion last time around was linked to the return of Hughes. Would be great if we could get him back on loan, but I think he left on poor terms. I think you're right on that one. Could you say it, Charlie? Did you say
I'm laughing, but I'm crying. Really, I still haven't got over that Hughes situation. So yeah, let's swiftly move on.
Yeah, swiftly move on. Charlotte says, "Happy days, Peter. That's a midfield that would grace any Premier League team. Chowdhury, Loser, Tom Daly, Bashiri, good players, not in the same league." Shouts for Jake Cooper to come in. Right, we'll get on to another question. We're going to move over to Instagram. There was one question. Thank you so much for sending these in. Oh, Sam, what are the 3 parts of a Christmas roast you can't go without? I mean, that's a huge question. Oh, he's got. On that question as well, Charlie. I'll throw it over to you, mate.
I actually had a Christmas dinner before we went live because we had Christmas dinner around the in-laws, and Gail de Pledge, if you're watching, no disrespect, but it wasn't up to standard. So, my girlfriend made me a lovely one before, and I think I said pork with crackling, red cabbage, and stuffing are the 3 things you need for a perfect Christmas dinner.
Sam, 3 things to make Christmas dinner. What we saying?
I'd say, I mean, I personally don't do Christmas, but from looking at the outset, it has to be probably Yorkshires, roast potatoes, and I'm a big fan of red cabbage personally.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. As someone's mentioned, Freddie, you're absolutely right. We're here to talk about the football, not Christmas. Moving on to the next one. Sam, I'll throw this one over to you as someone who sits in the Rookery. Disappointed with the atmosphere at the Vic? Will asks.
A lot of people have been saying this, actually. I think it's a really difficult one because I think ultimately the players have a responsibility to lift the crowd, but I think also the crowd have a responsibility to lift the players. I don't think, for example, against the Millwall game, I don't think the 12 o'clock kickoff helped in terms of timings, but I've been disappointed with the atmosphere as well. But it is really difficult to sort of make a noise at the Vic when the players ultimately aren't really receptive of any noise made. But saying that, I think fans should ultimately be trying harder as well. I think. I sit in the 1881, and it's been the quietest for years than it has in there. And that's not to throw the 1881 under the bus. The work they do is brilliant. I just think it's sort of I think it's a sort of response to what we've been seeing on the pitch, and it's been a difficult few years for Watford.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I mean, Charlie, I don't know how many games you've gone to this season, but what have you made of the atmosphere and stuff? Because, I mean, from my perspective, I sit in the Upper Graham Taylor, which is probably the quietest standout out of the lot anyway. But I do see what Sam's saying. I've noticed there's been a bit of a dip, but I don't think that could be really... It's weird because everyone wants the atmosphere to be better, but how do you do that if there's not that excitement there? You can't force the excitement. You can't force the atmosphere. If people are up for it, they're up for it, right?
Yeah, it's definitely... We do need the players to get the fans going, and that's from creating chances, crunching tackles, bits of skills, stuff like that. So it's definitely on the players. But I think one thing that I think as a fan base that we maybe need to do is kind of, look, I'm the most ambitious Watford fan there is. What I'd do to see us in Europe, that's like my dream. But I think where we've been in the Premier League for so long, I think there is a bit of entitlement maybe. I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but we expect to be number one, or we expect to stay in the Premier League. And I just think, like games like the Millwall, when we lose, instead of kind of it being really, really negative, let's try to go, okay, what's next? Can we win again? I think if we lose four or five in a row, then we can seriously ask questions. But somehow we are fourth in the league. So let's just try and build on that. And if we go away to Swansea and win, that'd be a really good result.
Yeah, for sure. That is a really good... It's just such a weird dynamic because, as you say, Charlie, we're towards the top half. Well, we're towards the top of the league, but it's hard to explain. But when we went, I think I always compare it to 2014-15, and I remember that season there was almost the expectation at the start of the season. And we're like, okay, we're all in this together. This is the season. We're all gonna sing on the same hymn sheet and go for it. And I just remember going to games, even when we lost. There was almost like, okay, pick ourselves up, we go again. Maybe that was the style of football because it was so exciting. There were so many goals. It was actually a joy to go to Vicarage Road most weeks because we were just scoring for fun. But I don't know, Sam. It's like this season, we're towards the top half. Okay, we had the dip. It's kind of been going like that this season. But the atmosphere and I guess the mood overall in the fan base isn't reflected by the league position. Whereas I feel like in previous years, 2014-15, 2012-13, that was such a good season. Why do you think that is?
I just think ultimately it comes down to perhaps fans not being as connected to the players. I mean, as you say, I think maybe it comes down to a bit of entitlement being in the Premier League. But what's wrong with having entitlement? We were a Premier League club for 5 years, and I think ultimately we dropped out because we let our expectations slip. as a club, and ultimately didn't recruit well enough and didn't spend enough money in there. But I think, look, it just seems to me from the outside, and I'm not saying this for all the players. I don't want to sort of, wipe all of them with one brush, but some of them just don't seem like they care really. I mean, I doubt there were many players who got home after that Millwall game and really, were truly gutted. I think many of them were just, happy to get out of Vicarage Road and get on with eating their Christmas leftovers, to be honest with you. That's what it seemed like. And I think ultimately, it's a consequence of that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the comment. If you are enjoying the video, please do leave a like. Saw a comment here, a couple on the atmosphere. I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section. As as a fan channel, that's ultimately what we can influence off the pitch. And Harrison says, great comment here. Luton in the 100-year anniversary game against Middlesbrough was the only good atmosphere due to the excitement. Players need to get the fans going more instead of relying on special occasions. New Orns TV, look at the sort of things that raise a crowd, committed challenges, lung-busting runs, a goal chance is being created. Now watch us this season. Other than Luton and Stoke, that's why we're flat. I mean, you can't really argue with that.
No, bang on. I mean, against Millwall, as you say, players were walking around after 5 minutes. No one's going to get up for that, are they? Particularly after João Pedro goes off, the only player who looks like making things happen. People just aren't really, I even say we have a bad first half. I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, we're shooting towards the Rookery in the second half. Fans are going to be up for it. Fans standing behind the goal. We're going to be, like we see with Watford, getting to the byline, pulling the ball back, crossing it into the back. We just don't really see that anymore, to be honest with you. I mean, at points against Millwall, we struggled to leave our half. And I think that's exactly why, we struggle to get up for it as a crowd.
It's really interesting. We're in exactly the same, if not maybe a slightly bit better than Norwich City, who obviously have just sacked Dean Smith. I think they're fifth. They've been with us in the Premier League up and down. They've had, I think, worse protests. Well, definitely worse protests than we've had, where visually people coming together. And again, some people might dream to be in the Premier League up and down. So it's just interesting, the state of play. But like I said, I would just kind of try and look big picture as much as possible.
Greg in the comment section, thanks so much for watching, Greg. Correct you on TV. Peter, and who have we got to make these committed challenges? Nobody. That's why we need a Eustace captain in. Completely agree. Greg says you on TV. There was one comment over here. Are you at Norwich away? I will be at Norwich away. Sam, you at Norwich away?
I will be. I'll also be at Swansea and Reading next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you see Sam, so go and say hello.
Give him a hug.
Yeah,
give him a hug.
Buy him a pint.
I'll probably need a hug at full time, to be honest with you.
To be fair, if you had one of those pies at Vicarage Road, unbelievable. Charlotte, next home game not until the 14th. Really need to create a good atmosphere at Swansea and Norwich to turn things around. Both quality opposition could be a sounding if we're not on form. Now back over to the couple of last questions on Twitter, then we'll go over to Instagram. This is an interesting one. Charlie, why are fans so persistent on selling Sarr? His value is probably the lowest it will ever be, and he's one of our best players.
The Ismaila Sarr dilemma. Yeah, it's a really hard one with Sarr. I think in the summer, Villa were very close to getting him for around 22 million, raising up to 25 on bonuses. I think that's quite a fair price for him, personally. I think if we get an offer like that in the region of that, I think that'd be good business. Can we use those funds to recruit and get players in who are going to really help us with a promotion push? If we aren't getting offers that aren't going to match or help us bring in a player who's got Sarr's quality, and I do think he is inconsistent. I think some people have an opinion on him just because of his mannerisms, and he isn't someone who's going to go hurrying around, or sometimes he does look like he's not interested. But on the other hand, when he's scoring, he is celebrating with the team. He isn't coming clapping the fans. So he is a quality player, and on his day, and for the last 2 or 3 years, he has been our main player in the middle of our best work, really. I do think he is a bit inconsistent at the moment, and if a super offer came in, the club should consider it if we're going to reinvest it. But it's hard to, especially with the Pedro injury now, it'd be pretty crazy to sell a player for a fee that isn't worth it. And think of that starting 11 now with all the injuries we got. So I think we got to be clever about it.
Sam, I know you've had quite a few. It's an interesting one. Charlie's raised there, and like, I mean, his contract runs out in I think it's summer 2024 for Sarr. So you're looking at it and you're thinking, obviously, it's one of those ones where it could go both ways. Where we look back at it and go, why didn't we cash in now? But there's also an element of, well, if we do go up, which, don't get me wrong, is probably less likely through the automatics, and it would have to be probably through the playoffs now. You're thinking, oh, should we have kept him? It's it's a difficult one in January as well. But I guess the thing is, Sam, do you think we'll get more for him now than we will further down the line? That's the question.
I think his price is only going down, to be honest with you, particularly as his contract sort of slowly runs out. I don't think he particularly wants to be at Watford anymore. And I know people can argue that, that's just the way, his mannerisms are when playing football. Well, it wasn't when he was at Senegal during the World Cup. He was chasing after every single ball. He was looking interested in the game. And I was very 50-50 on the whole situation. But I think particularly after the Millwall game, where we're crying out for someone just to take the game by the scruff of the neck, and you're looking to your £40 million player to do that. And he just didn't really do that. And it sort of made up my mind for me. If we get an offer probably above 15 million for him in January, I'd cash in, to be honest.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section, how much would you sell, first question, would you sell Sarr in January? Let us know in the comments. And if you are, how much do you think he's worth at the moment? Do you say 15 million, Sam?
I'd say probably if we get an offer, I'm not saying he's worth 15 million, because I think on his day he's probably £25 million player, but any offer of 15 upwards, I'd probably cash in.
Charlie, 15 million, I don't know. I can't see us cash in considering how much we pay for him.
Yeah, do you know how much we'd get if we got promoted and he played a big part in that?
How many times have we seen it this season?
Yeah, true. But
it's really tough though. And I don't want to. What I will say about Sarr, sorry, Charlie, to interrupt there, is I'm not saying he should be doing more, and he should be. I remember Mourinho saying the thing about Dele Alli. You should be wanting more from yourself, because at the moment he is a moments player for sure. I completely agree with that. But at the same time, the way he's been managed at Watford, I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm not saying his performance shouldn't improve, but I can understand if he lost a little bit of motivation after what he's had to do at Watford in terms of like the way his position's changed, the amount of managers he's been through. He's had to go down twice. He hasn't got his move quite a few times. I don't know. It's a really difficult one. I'm just trying to see it from the player's perspective, Charlie.
Yeah, we definitely need, as a club, they need to look at how we need to look at ourselves in terms of how we've developed the player, and it hasn't gone. I think we were hoping we were going to get 100 million for him. And yeah, I know what you're saying, Sam, but he's still got 6 goals, 3 assists this season, which I'm guessing second to João Pedro. So it depends. I'm hoping we're going to talk maybe about potential transfer targets, because
for sure.
If anyone can name a player who's got more chance of doing the business for us than Ismaila Sarr, get in the comments and let us know.
Well, I guess the one player, right, that they're hoping will hit the ground running is Martins, who obviously plays out wide, but obviously with Pedro now out, does that change the dynamic? I mean, look, before we get onto that in terms of incoming, so that's a really good point from Charlie. Orns TV, thanks so much for watching, mate, and the contributions today. 15 million or 35 million to Everton, the gift that keeps giving as they have more money than Acumen. Ryan says 30 million for Sarr. I think we'd be lucky if we got that. Pete says we paid 35 million for him. We would get 15 million tops. Laura, so good to see you, Laura. Gino won't accept 15 million. Ian says Sarr 25 million. Harrison 25 would sell. He's not worth it, but I believe Premier League club would pay it, no doubt. I guess it does depend if a Premier League club does get an injury. I guess you are looking at someone like Everton who potentially couldn't do with a wide player. I'm trying to think of any other team, Sam, or Charlie, that come to my head.
I'm thinking Palace in the back of my head, because I think Zaha's going to go in the summer, so maybe he could be the Wilf Zaha replacement.
Yeah, I think
interest before.
Apparently Gerrard was the one who said he didn't want to do the Sarr deal to Villa in the summer, so maybe the club is still interested in Emery. They've got loads of money. So again, I think 20 million. If we rejected 25 million, maybe that's what would tempt Gino.
Do you know what? We'll throw it over to Charlie, back over to you. Incomings. Is there any names you're looking at, you're thinking, dream scenario, Gino? You've got Gino, Scott, Cristiano Gioretta, Ben Mangan, Helena Costa around the table. And Charlie Zazzera walks in through the door and he goes, look, this is who I want to sign. Who's that player?
Jacob, I'm glad because I spent an hour today playing like pretend football manager, thinking let's get some names, let's see who we can get.
Love it.
I think before I kind of spill out some names that I've got down, and I'd be interested in the comments what people think. But I'll ask you two, what areas do we need to recruit in January now?
I mean, I think a central midfielder is an absolute must. I mean, that's almost like not even a question. I think we need another striker.
I think both fullbacks need improvement.
Sam's going left back, right back.
I actually only think I think the only position, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I think we've got enough depth for the Championship is probably centre back. Probably when you look at Troost-Ekong, Sirao to Cathcart. Don't get me wrong, there will be mistakes, but ultimately that's probably enough depth for the Championship. I'm looking at other positions, Sam, and I'm thinking we need a couple of players in certain positions. Which positions do you write down, Charlie?
Well, I originally looked at centre midfield as a must just because of the injuries.
Yeah.
I think right back, we need to get an advancing and progressive right back if we're going to be a team who's dominating possession. We need an outlet. In the summer, I was definitely thinking centre half, centre back, because although we've got depth, I just don't think we've got quality.
Okay.
So I reckon I'll just reel off some names. I'll go centre midfielder first. And again, people in the comments tell like any that are bad shouts, good shouts, and then I'll tell you kind of my top three. So central midfielders, I've gone Oliver Skipp on loan from Tottenham, Ben Whiteman from Preston, Lewis Baker from Stoke, Jack Colback and Adam Forshaw, those kind of Ben Watson kind of characters. Carney Chukwuemeka, Jacob Mulder from Brighton, and Luduni. I think he was Tunisia. He played really well at the World Cup. So I don't know what people think about that. I think the names that I've picked out would be Oliver Skipp would be my number one. 100%. He was brilliant for Norwich 2 seasons ago in the Championship. I think got in the PFA Team of the Year. I think he'd get the ball off the fence. He'd help dictate the tempo. So he'd be my number one. And then I was looking at maybe a right back and a centre back. So I don't know what you guys think about those names.
I think Skip's a great shout. I mean, if we could get him, the only thing is, I was a couple of Tottenham fans at work who were saying like, the only thing is he is a little bit not a little bit injury prone. He's had a couple of bad injuries, and also I think Conte quite likes him as well.
Yeah.
So, but that'd be a great signing. Sorry, mate.
Has he been playing much for Tottenham? That was kind of one of the reasons.
I think he's just come back from injury. I think he's been out all season pretty much.
I haven't done my good enough research because anyone that's injury prone, we shouldn't be looking at.
Do you know what? It was. Sorry, Sam, go on, mate.
No, I was going to say all my Tottenham mates, they really like Ollie Skipp. I think it's probably a bit unrealistic. If it was a loan move, I reckon it would be a Premier League club. To be honest with you,
I'm seeing Cameron Archer quite a lot in the comment section.
Yeah. I just wonder if I don't know how that works in terms of the ruling because Keane Davis is on loan. And obviously, we got Courtney Hawes as well. So, are we able to have a third Aston Villa player?
I guess we have to cancel the Hawes one potentially.
Yeah, so it all depends on Courtney Hawes. But again, he's a player who, he's sat on the bench, not doing much at Villa.
The comments tonight have been super.
Like yeah, he's bringing out the best ones tonight. I've seen obviously a big name is what everyone's talking about is Victor Gyökeres as well. I think that one's unrealistic. I think he'll go to a Premier League club. I think Everton are probably the favourites at the moment. They're showing strong interest in him, it seems. So at Aston Villa, so I think that one's probably too unrealistic. The name I just thought of with centre mids, Charlie, a player I quite liked a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure how he's doing at Bournemouth, but Ben Pearson was someone I wanted about maybe last season or 2 seasons ago. Do you think he's a realistic one?
Yeah, I think he'd be realistic. He's not getting much game time at Bournemouth. I kind of was looking at him compared to Ben Whiteman, and I just remember him being a big shithouse against us. So I was like, nah, he's plays for Bournemouth. I don't want him anywhere near us. But look, Dan Gosling came in and he turned his way. So I think it'd be decent. Championship experience, rough and ready to get tackles in. I think one of the key things I'm looking for in a centre midfielder, which Imran Louza does the best, is kind of dictating the play, controlling the game, slowing it down. Those short passes, just so we're not giving it away constantly.
Sure.
A couple of other names which I was looking at championship-wise, Gustavo Hamer of Coventry.
Love him.
Again, are we... I don't know if this is the entitlement come back, but are we a good enough club that we can spend money on players like that. I'm not too sure. And another player who I think would be a very Watfordy signing, but again, another one from Aston Villa, Marvelous Nakamba, centre midfielder.
Oh, I can see that.
I
Yeah.
feel like we've been linked with him before.
It seems Watfordy, doesn't it?
It does seem Watfordy. Give us some shouts to the comment section. Who could be the most Watfordy signing right now? So I've seen Rondon being flown about a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Rondon, could Rondon be the most Watfordy signing at the moment? Let us know in the comments.
Danny, I've said if we go up in the summer, I think the two names that I've thought of, I've seen is Toulouse Orns yesterday. Two most Watfordy signings I could see is Dele Alli, if we went up in the summer, and James Milner as well. I just think it's Watford written all over him, to be honest.
I'll take Milner, to be fair.
I probably would,
but
knowing Watford, we give him a 5-year contract when he's how old now? Nearly 40. So
we've got a couple. We've got a couple in. Matt Ritchie, Jack Rodwell, Harry Winks. Harry Winks.
Wasn't Jack Rodwell on loan with us at some point, or did a trial? Or something?
He did the trial ahead of the season. We got to the FA Cup final. Bizarre.
It was all down to him.
Absolutely bizarre. Just hadn't had a trial with us. I remember at Brentford away, he just like rocked up and it was like, oh, it's Jack Rodwell. Harry Winks, who's another one we've got. Someone said Gabby Boglaw.
He played for
Jack Wilshere.
Can I throw out a couple of names as well?
Yeah, go for it.
Looking at right back, we're needing someone who's comfortable taking the ball, progress up the play. Another Tottenham boy. Well, 3 right backs, young right backs, I think who would be good on loan. Jed Spence, Calvin Ramsey, the Scottish guy at Liverpool. He can't even get in over Milner. And Rico Lewis, I think he's been outstanding for City when he's played. And centre halves, which I've looked at as well. Pontus Jansson, which might be a bit of a weird shout, but he's got championship experience going up. He's a real leader. He played 30 games in the Premier League for Brentford last season, but he can't get in their team now. I think that leadership could. I just wish he was maybe a centre midfielder. And I think Nat Phillips, again, from Liverpool. We've been linked with him. He went in at Bournemouth last year, helped them get promoted. He did a really good job for Liverpool in their injury crisis. So a couple of names, but yeah.
I love that. Do you know what? The one that's got the most heat is Jed Spence, actually. A lot of people are quite keen for that one, judging by the comment section. Out of the ones Charlie has mentioned in the comment section, guys, let us know which ones you feel would be the best for Watford. Sam, were there any names that particularly jumped out of you there? Because I have to say, there were a few on there you go, you know what? They would make sense for both parties.
Yeah, I think the Jed Spence is the main one. My only worry with that is there's supposedly an attitude problem. Again, before Peter jumps in, he'd fit right in at Watford then. But you know, if we can get him, he certainly would be a good one. Same as Nat Phillips. I was really impressed with him at Bournemouth last season. He's also someone I think who can progress with the ball at his feet. I might be wrong with that. But yeah, I think it's just about, you know, trying to get that experience in there, to be honest with you.
Lucas says Gabriel Goodmanson from Lille. Harris says Ilias Chair opinions. Jacob would take him in an absolute heartbeat. I
prefer Chris Willett.
Oh, mate, they tell you what, QPR's front players are lovely balance. Sergi Canos from Brentford, or next Gerard Delafeu. Bring back Iggy, says Peter. And on that note, we're gonna cross over to Instagram. And to be fair, we've answered yours, Jobbo. If you're watching, mate, if each of you could pick someone who you want to sign in the window, who would it be and why? If you could bring in 5 players, Watford FC Adam. Do you know what? But as I'm crossing over to Instagram, Sam, what do you think? This is from George Thorpe. What do you think of the chance for promotion with our injury crisis at the moment? A lot will be based on what we can expect from when Zhao comes back.
Yeah, of course. For me, I think it's about. Look, I don't think we'll get automatically promoted. I think the top 2, I think, are pretty much done now. It's just going to be a title race between those 2. Championship, weird things can happen, but I just think it's too unrealistic. I think it's just for us, just making sure we keep our heads above the water. I thought I were in a relegation scrap, but make sure we can stay in and around the top 6, hopefully in the top 6 until for the next, I don't know, however many. I think Joel might be out for probably 3 or 4 months. We'll probably get confirmation this week. Until Joel comes back, hopefully then he can hit the ground running. Martins can hit the ground running. and then hopefully we can be ready for a playoff run in. And at that point, it's anybody's game.
Love it. Right, we're going to wrap up this Q&A with some of your questions on Instagram. Got a few coming in there. Thanks so much to everyone who sent one through. We're going to kick it off with someone who you all know, Emma Saunders, has sent in. Well, it's not really a question; it's more of a thought, and potentially could be a bit of a conspiracy theory. So Emma says, Coventry at home, Millwall at home are the only games I've gone to this season. Am I a bad omen?
Stay away, Emma.
Yeah,
stay away, Emma. Stay clear. Stay clear. To be fair, we missed you on the tunnel. To be fair, Sam, that it was when Emma was doing it with Tim. I almost feel like Tim's lost. You know that scene in Toy Story with Woody and Buzz, and like I feel like you look at Tim now and you think, oh, Tim. He's got to be missing Emma, surely.
Oh, bless it. Yeah, Tim's a top man as well. Doing a great job.
What a guy!
Yeah, doing a great job as well out there. But it's not the same, is it?
We miss you, Emma.
Come back,
Charlie. We've had the SAR situation. We've had the one player you would sign. Do we need? Ollie Brown 10. Do we need to sign someone to replace Pedro?
I'll let Charlie have that one.
Do you know what? It's a good point. I was trying to put together like a starting 11 for our next game with this injury crisis, and it was difficult. I think we've got Asprilla, who has been really, really good. Look, he's an 18-year-old kid. Like, he's not going to be the finished article. I think to put him, to expect him to fill João Pedro's boots at that age is unrealistic.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated to see what Bilic is going to do with the starting 11 because apart from Asprilla, we haven't really got a central attacking midfielder, and we know Bilic's preferred formation is 4-2-3-1. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he says. I would say we've got quite a lot of attackers, and we don't need to replace him. I don't think, especially spending money when we've got João Pedro. Hopefully it's not too bad, and he'll be back February, March time, but we don't know. So I'd say no. It'd be interesting to see how good Martins is. I don't know what you guys think, and obviously we've seen the YouTube clips and all that, but it's going to be it's a big ask to go again. 20-year-old Brazilian come and lead us for our promotion hopes, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm kind of expecting similar things when Pedro first came in, where it did take about 6 months at least to adapt. I guess the benefit that Martins have over Pedro is the fact that when Pedro came in, we were in the middle of a pretty intense relegation battle, so his opportunities were limited, whereas Martins is coming in and we actually need to play him. So hopefully that should develop him a little bit quicker. But Sam, I'll throw that one over to you as well. With João, do we need to be planning ahead? Because ultimately, as we've mentioned a lot of times, all three of us together, that the interest is going to be high. I'd imagine probably less so now in January, but I think come the summer, if we don't go up, there'll be plenty of teams looking to bring Pedro in. So does that kind of replacement journey start now?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say because in the short term, with the player to get a player in the João Pedro's quality is going to cost us a lot of money, to be honest with you. And it's unlikely we get a player like that on loan as well. So it's a question whether they want to start planning for the long-term future without João Pedro, or whether it's sort of just a stopgap, which we have in Martins already, to be honest with you. I don't think, Manai is injury prone. I think Bayo is at times a scapegoat, but I don't think he's the answer as well, to be honest with you. So I don't think it will do us any harm to get another attacking player in there.
Nice one. We've answered Murray, WD3PT. What's your thoughts on Manga joining? We've done that one. Thanks so much for your question, Murray. There's a couple the positions. Oh, okay. Bit of a. We'll flip this into a positive as well. Who has been? So the question from Luke Price is who's been the most disappointing player this season. So we'll do the most exciting player and the most disappointing. Sam, this season so far.
Most exciting, I think it has to be. Should we exclude João from that then?
Yeah, exclude João because yeah.
I really like Asprilla. I think obviously, I don't think they would have wanted Asprilla to play as many games as he has. I think they would probably wanted to ease him and slower, but obviously due to injuries and that sort of thing, I think he's probably had to pay more than he's wanted to. There has been a bit of a drop off recently, and he missed another really good chance. He just needs to get that composure in front of goal. But I think we've seen enough so far to see that there is certainly a really good player in there. In terms of most disappointing, it's really difficult.
It almost feel a bit bad like picking someone out, but
yeah. It's difficult. I'll probably say Sarr, to be honest with you. I've said Chowdhury already in our last video, but I'd say Sarr, to be honest, because I just think we need to be seeing more from him.
I think this shows when Chowdhury doesn't play, though, Sam. I mean, you look
Yeah,
at the
no, certainly. Someone said that to me the other day on Twitter, actually, and I agree with you. I mean, I think there are certainly flaws to Chowdhury's game, but without having him in the team, I think we're certainly seeing, we're missing him.
Rio's gone Kamara, most disappointing. We'll move on from that one because I feel a bit bad, picking someone else. But I'll throw this one over to you, Charlie. Oliver Worthy, start, bench, sell, which I think is I love that. I might have to do a video just on start, bench, sell. Troost-Ekong, Sierralta, Pollock. In the comment section, let us know. Start, bench, sell, Troost-Ekong, Sierralta.
Did you send that question in?
Oliver Worthy. Do you want me to? I can actually reply to it now with a message from
Oliver Worthy. Drop me out. Who was it? It was Sierralta, Troost, and Matty Pollock.
Yeah, they're the three.
Start, bench, and sell.
Start, bench, sell.
Oh, I can't.
or Sam, should I throw it over to Sam?
Yeah, throw it to Sam.
It's really difficult because I really like Matty Pollock, and I think there is a player in there, and I think we can't really judge him off the Millwall game.
No, that's not fair.
In terms of age, I'd probably keep Matty Pollock on the bench and start Troost and sell Sierralta, to be honest with you.
Sierralta?
I think most people would probably start Troost.
Ian's gone Troost-Ekong bench, Pollock sell, Sierralta start.
I think the difficult thing with Pollock is that the only thing we've seen from him was the Millwall game, and it was dreadful. But I think it's difficult to judge him off that Millwall game alone.
Yeah, that is hard.
How good was Sierralta against Cardiff away? He dominated the game. Like, it's strange how many managers have come in and just don't fancy him.
100%. I think when you look at 100% agree, Charlie. I think when you look at the centre backs we've got and they're playing at their best, Sierralta for me is the best out of the lot because he just dominates strikers when he's playing at his best. But I just think the problem is maybe he's a little bit too injury prone. I don't know if there's sort of whether it's a fitness thing, but it is weird. And it's also weird how he wasn't fancied before Xisco came in. I still forget that. For the first 6 months, he didn't get a kick.
Him and Troost were part of the best defensive. He had the best defensive partnership in a championship history. It's bizarre.
Oh, I think Robbie in the comments has got around it and said he'd instead of selling Pollock, he'd put him out on loan. So fair play for that.
Yeah, start Sierralta. That would probably be mine. That'd be my three.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, last. If you've got any final questions, guys, we're going to wrap it up soon. So if there's any other questions you've got for the guys, then just chuck it in the live chat. Orns TV, Spria, Sema, other than JP, most exciting. I agree with Sema, actually. That's a great show. Yeah. Least exciting, Mario Gaspar. We swapped Spanish 31-year-old fullbacks and didn't get the better of the deal. I think that's pretty fair, to be honest. But as Charlie mentioned, obviously, he's only featuring cameos. Surin, what a man. Surin, love it. Tariq Lamptey is potential shout. Sorry, Charlie.
I'm just going to have a shout out for most exciting this year for me. I think we said it in the last video when we done the review, so make sure you guys check out that video. But Keenan Davis, for me, I think he's been great. I mean, again, I see some people giving him stick, but I think he's so powerful. He can roll in a defender. Maybe not goal scoring is his best ability, but I think what he can do to the team, if we play to his strengths, he could be massive for us. And I just don't think we're getting the most out of him. And what has he got to do to win a penalty, by the way? Has someone got to come on and hit him with a baseball bat or something?
The Huddersfield one was a joke. I can't believe you didn't get that.
Even against Millwall.
And the Millwall one, the Millwall one. I think, you know what? I think with the Millwall one, that the reason it didn't get given is probably the way he went down. But because I keep forgetting, obviously, with no VAR there, the referees are only going to give it unless it's absolutely stonewall. The Huddersfield one, for me, was, I don't know how that wasn't a penalty. The Millwall one, it was a penalty, but when one of those where you're like, if you're in the referee's shoes and you're neutral, would you maybe be a bit more lenient? I'm not sure. It's an interesting one with Davis, though, just to wrap up, because me and my dad are quite split on it. When we go to games, he thinks he's like, Keenan's moaning again, or he needs to do more. And then I say to him, actually, he's up front on his own. He works incredibly hard off the ball. He's one of the few strikers that I remember actually chase down like the goalkeeper the way he does. I can't remember many strikers playing for Watford who do that. Once he gets on his left, don't get me wrong, he's a one-footed striker, But once he gets with his back to goal and he's turning, I don't think there's any centre back that can stop him. And if we can keep him fit, I think he guarantees you 20 goals a season. I guess it is just fitness wise. But Sam, are you someone who's pro Keenan, or are you someone who thinks he should be doing more?
I like him. I'm sort of both in both camps with that. I still think there's more to come from him, certainly in front of goal. I think my concern with him was fitness as well. I thought he actually looked much better. I know a lot of people I think he was sort of a scapegoat a bit against Millwall. I thought he had a really good game. I thought he looked like the only player in the second half who was willing to, let's say, take the game by the scruff of the neck, bring the ball forward. And yes, he should have released the ball a bit faster, but maybe he was just a bit annoyed at his teammates and just wanted to get on with it himself. That's what it seemed like, at least to me. But I like him. I think there's more to come, particularly when he's driving with the ball at his feet. I just think he looks so good and unstoppable. But yeah, he probably does still need to do a tiny bit more.
Sure. Charlotte, thanks so much. Great to have you back, lads. We'll try and get some more content out over the coming weeks. I think worst we'll end it. I'm just trying to think, is there any more? Oh, that's a nice way to end. Top 3 Watford kits of all time. Max and Viking Rage. We had this one from someone else on Instagram. And obviously, top 3 kits. We've done this so many times though, Sam, but I feel like it can change quite quickly. So, Charlie, we're going to give you the honour. Top 3 Watford kits all time from Charlie Zazzera. Take it away.
I saw this coming through, so I actually made a note. But the first kit I can properly remember, and I think I've had, which I don't have with me now, was, I think, 99. You know, the Phones For You one?
Yeah, that's a
belter.
That's a belter.
That was like the first one I can really remember having. I love that one. First one from Kelme, we got promoted. I just think it's pretty different, so I like that one. Nice. And I think my favourite one is 12-13. Pozos came in, Football Manager, Little Puma.
That's football heritage.
I think the team was just so exciting, and yeah, that kit sticks out for me.
Oh, it's a great kit. Also, that blue away kit.
Beautiful.
Different gravy. Sam, what are you saying? Top favourite kit?
Third, I'm going to go in terms of home kits. Just do home kits for now. But in terms of home kit, third, I'll go 13-14, where it was sort of, I don't know if you can see it a bit in the background there, that one there, the half yellow, half black one.
We've got to do a room tour at some point, Sam. We're just memorabilia.
I've just got a ton of signed shirts everywhere, to be honest.
That kit just reminds me of Lewis McGugan for some reason.
Wait, yeah, what a shout. Wait, go back, Sam. Which shirt are we talking? The
yellow black one there.
Which play? Oh, do you know what? I think that screams a little bit of Alexander Merkel.
I was literally about to say
I think Forestieri. I think it's because I stood with him when I was a mascot, to be honest. But I think Forestieri.
Or Diakite.
Sam
Diakite. Oh my God.
What a player. I'd probably go second. I'd go the promotion kit in 14-15. It's a very simple kit, but I just think simplicity sometimes works well. My favourite kit is probably the stripes in the FA Cup final season. Love that kit.
That's a great kit. You on TV, Umbro 97. 78-83. Solvite. What a belter.
Well, I think you can tell my age through the kits that I picked compared to.
Do you know what? I'm going to put it out there. The guys I mentioned 3 absolutely world-class shirts. One underrated shirt, I'm going to go with the Danny Graham season, where it was. I found out that was only one of the few kits that had the same manufacturer and the same sponsor.
Was it?
Fun fact: Burda was the sponsor, and Burda were the manufacturer. And I don't know why. I just think it's quite a cool kit, quite niche. So that's my one.
Was it the one with this, like the stripe?
I think for me, that's Danny Graham and Sordell.
That away day at QPR on a Friday night 3-1 was one.
What a match!
I think those highlights are still on YouTube somewhere as well.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that game before, for maybe some of the younger fans, like search up. God, I sound like I'm sort of 50 going, yeah, do you remember the good old days? No, but if you remember 2010, 2010-11, YouTube, QPR Watford, Danny Graham scoring a couple. Great season. That was a weird season because we finished mid-table, but it was a good season. It wasn't like we were doing well under Malky. Look, that's where we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much to everyone who watched. Thank you so much to Charlie, Sam, as usual, over an hour. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope we answer your questions. And if you'd like to see more Q&A sort of style videos, then let us know in the comment section, and we're more than happy to bring them to you. Please leave a like, follow us on socials, link in the description, subscribe to WD18. We'll see you next time. Up the Hornets.